Dominique et Nique s'en allaient tout simplement au Dieu, pauvre et chantant. En tout chemin, en tout lieu, ils ne parlent que du bon Dieu, ils ne parlent que du bon Dieu.
Welcome to the second part of my little series about masturbation in philosophy and religion. The punishment for masturbation and the stigmatization of masturbation as disease started in 1730 with a script of Auguste-André David Tissot named Onanism, or a treatise upon the disorder produced by masturbation. This was also subtitled The Dangerous Effects of Secret and Excessive Venery. You still can find this book in your preferred online bookshop. While reading this book, I found two things really interesting. First, this was the first time ever the human being was described as a sexual risk for himself. The second is that now your own hand was considered as a sexual organ. This hand troubled the psychiatrists and the doctors of the 18th and 19th century enormously. How to evaluate the capability of this hand to touch different parts of your body and induce lust? During this time, Tissot worked also on a theory considering the body as capital. Somehow on the capitalism of the body, I might say. His interest was to avoid the waste of energy of this body capital caused by masturbation. For Tissot, the body was an autarkic energy-producing system void to work, so to the industrial production or to the sexual reproduction. Some of you, my devoted sheep, might be interested in the technical dimension of masturbation, in the relation between body and machine. Very fast, some of Tissot's theories were put into practice by inventing some machinery and equipments. These are some really funny inventions, but what is more funny is that just the first industrials who brought such machines to patent were Graham and Kellogg, the biggest flour and cornflake producers in the USA. Graham and Kellogg produced and patented two chastity belts, one for little boy and one for little girl. This armored belt not only enclosed the sexual organs, but in my humble opinion also the whole childhood and meow of these children. It was a measure to control and correct the growing young body by making it impossible to him to touch his own sexual organs. It encloses that you don't need anymore to have a sexual encounter with another body to make you guilty or bring yourself in danger, but it was enough to touch yourself to feel inside this sexual guilt. The paradox is that these chastity belts showed exactly where were the sexual organs and how to gratificate yourself. There was always this paradox between oppression and pleasure. Tissot, Graham, Kellogg, servant of the capitalism by suppressing the waste of energy, this energy reserved to the industrial production. The discourse of Tissot, who lived in Lausanne, Switzerland, was in his time apprehended by two other well-known people. Voltaire, who lived just 20 kilometers away in Ferney, and Rousseau, who lived in Geneva. Both were devoted to Tissot, who was a kind of guru, someone with probably a great charisma. Tissot was a world-famous doctor of the London, Bern and Rotterdam Intellectual Society. He describes the history of a young watchmaker who was until his age of 17 a hard-working, God-fearing nice boy with good health. But then he became addicted to masturbation, which he practiced 3 times a day. So when Tissot heard of his health state, went to visit this young watchmaker and said he was frightened by what he saw. Lying on the straw, he found more a corpse than a living person. Emaciated, pale, dirty, stinking, not able to move anymore. During this time, Tissot's medicine couldn't help the young man anymore, and he died after a few days, and this was in June 1757. Tissot repeated his false observations on many occasions, and this only to spread fear. Someone who reads such a history don't feel very much temptation to masturbate and to die of it. In the 18th century, the damnation was more based on philosophy than on religion. The philosophers of the Enlightenment, the discoverer of the personal freedom, were the most hardy fighters against the self-gratification. Now, we cannot say that all philosophers have condemned the masturbation. This would be wrong, because philosophers like Diderot, La Métrie, de Sade approved the masturbation expressly because they separated it from moral concerns. Not only they didn't condemn it, but claim it to be a legitimated part of the exploration of the human libido, and as such absolutely not condemnable. Rousseau counted to the few who actively condemned the masturbation, but let us take a little look at Rousseau's manner to think. In his book Confessions, he mentioned it several times. He writes he has practiced the thing several times, and that therefore it's a part of his personal sexuality. But look how he dramatized his relation to his own masturbation. He never used the word masturbation or onanism. He always talked about the dangerous compliment, and always related it to sin, a vice, something forbidden, and therefore something dangerous. As a dangerous compliment, Rousseau also described writing. Both practices were reprehensible for him because they excited and inspired the fantasy. And everything who excites the fantasy was dangerous for him because it stops you to have a natural relationship with your outside world. This was it for today. Next time we will see what were the medical arguments of the time. So don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe if you don't have already done it. Ciao and have a nice day.